See the nations before thee, from every land giving glory, exalting the name of the Lord. I hear the nations sing glory, in one accord they adore thee, living as one in the light of the sun. So we acknowledge you as we worship you, as we honor you, our King. We exalt your name and we will proclaim you are God. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I see the nations before thee, from every land giving glory, exalting the name of the Lord. Exalting the name of the Lord. I hear the nations sing glory, in one accord they adore thee, living as one in the light of the sun. So we acknowledge you, we worship you, and we honor you, our King. We exalt your name, we will proclaim you are God. Here we go. Sing all nations, nations to worship you. All nations, nations to worship you. Worship you, we'll worship you. Come on, put those hands together. We are the holy nation, arising in this generation, exalting the name of the Lord. And so we ask for the nations. Come on, making the earth our possession, to live as one in the light of the sun. So we acknowledge you, and we worship, we honor you, our King. We exalt your name, we will proclaim, say you are God. Exalt your name.